Troy from Ace Appliance in Toledo, Ohio. Welcome back to another in-home diagnostic video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Today what we're looking at is a Whirlpool Duet dryer. It's an electric dryer, and essentially what the customer's issue is that they have no heat. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the bottom panel, which is a screw at each side on the bottom. Once you remove the bottom panel, we'll remove a few more things inside, but you would take the two screws out of the bottom. Once you take the screws out of the bottom, you may have to tilt your unit back a little bit to get it to come out. If you're not on a pedestal, if you are on a pedestal, it should just slide down and then out. This one being stacked, what I had to do is remove the screws, and then once the screws are removed, tilt the panel or the whole unit back just a little bit so the panel will fall out. Once that panel is removed, I typically remove the blower or the lint screen housing. There's going to be 1, 2, 3 screws. Remove those 3 screws. Once you remove those screws, this piece will fall down. Once they're removed, it'll set a little bit. You may have to work it a little bit and pull it out, and then it'll come right out. The reason why I removed that is so that I can get a quick and easy look at the fuses and the thermostats, your high limit, things like that, and underneath. What you're going to use now is your meter, and you're going to take your meter and you're going to set it to check for continuity, and you're going to essentially remove one of the plugs from your thermostat. You're going to remove one plug or terminal from your fuse and the other one from your operating thermostat. You're going to check both of them for continuity, which I have, and I have continuity at both of them. And so what you're going to do then now is you're going to move over to your heating element. There are the front 2 plugs are your heating element. Remove one of them so that it's not touching anything. Use your meter on just checking for continuity. Check and see if you have continuity. This specific element is open. When I look for continuity, it shows as open. It is not shorted to ground or anything like that. It's just plain open. So what we have to do is replace the heating element. Now to do that, you've already got the cover off. The element is behind this plate here. I disconnect this wire from here so that it comes down and set aside. Your element is behind this metal sheet right here. What you have is a screw at the bottom and a screw at the top. Remove both these screws. You're going to remove these 2 wires, and right behind these wires is another screw. You're going to remove that screw as well. Once you remove these 3 screws and these 2 wires, this metal piece is going to come forward, and then you'll be able to grab the element and pull the element straight out. For doing this part, what I recommend is either getting some sort of work gloves, like mechanics gloves or something like that, so you can wear while you're doing this part, because inside the metal edging is not finished, so it is rough and it'll cut your hands very quickly. Those 2 screws, this front piece comes right out. Now remove the terminals so they're out of your way as well. Once you remove the terminal plugs, right behind them is going to be one more screw for you to take off. Once you remove that screw, you can grab the terminals, hold the housing in place, and pull forward. The element slides right out. What I notice on this element is it is cracked and broken. The housing of it, or the bracket that holds it in place, has caused it to warp and bend. Excessive heat will cause that. You may want to make sure you have clean venting, go outside. but the element is also broken in half. So there is no connection there for it to make. So you're going to remove this element and set it aside. Now the new element is flat. There's no bends or discolorations on it. And what it does, it just slides right back in the middle, just how the old one came out. This is where the gloves come in handy, because when you're pushing it in there, if you slide off and hit one of these pieces of metal, it will cut your hand pretty good. And also gives you better grip to be able to push it in. So basically set it in its place. It goes right in the middle. Push it in. Once you got it in all the way, you're going to reverse order of operation and put your screws back into place. Once the element's put back in place, you're going to reattach your element wiring. Once your element's reattached, you're going to put your bracket back in. It does have this little tongue. This little tongue actually sticks in a slot in that housing. And then there's also a bottom tab on the bottom. It sets in its own place. So it is secured where it should be at. Once those screws are reattached, we're going to now put our blower housing, our lint screen housing back on. If you did as me at this point, you're going to make sure everything is reconnected. Make sure your wires are all back on where they go. Make sure you re-plug this back in, especially if you use the moisture sensing, because without this plugged in, it will not sense moisture and you'll get error codes back through your unit. So that's all back on. We're going to re-put the front cover back on. And this one, again, you're going to take and put it in the lips. And this one does not fit because of the way that it is set up in the unit. It's set on the bottom. We're going to take and we're going to lift it up a little bit so it'll slide into place. And set it back down. Once that's all put back together, what I recommend is that you test it by first turning the unit on time dry, but make sure you have it set to air fluff only. Turn it on, let it run for a minute or two, and as you do that, you're going to check the inside of the drum after it runs for a few minutes to make sure there's no heat inside. Make sure you set it to air fluff so there's no heat, because if you set it to air fluff and you still have heat, that means that you have a control board issue. And if you have a control board issue, you have to replace that immediately or you're going to end up burning up additional parts. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.